We got another minute.
Yep.
Oh, it's already being live streamed. Okay, got it. Got
Hey,
it.
we're in good shape.
Speak
So,
for yourself. I'm not in good shape at all. I'm round.
oh my
Actually, pear
word.
shaped.
Well, let's put it this way. As far as I'm concerned, it's like what is it, in the last 3 weeks of semester in Winona, and it's in Winona, Minnesota, and it hasn't started to get consistently above freezing.
Hmm.
You know, it's come on, it's um come on, it's going to be halfway through April, and we just had snow today. I mean,
My friend Mike in Berkeley said it was 88 there today.
Oh,
oh my
Yeah.
God. I'll
our
tell you
foreign
what.
correspondent is here, Maggie. Hello.
Hey,
Hola.
Well, we're ready to go. We've got 15 seconds.
okay.
Oh shoot, where's that thing? Well,
Exactly. You know what? I like the test pattern.
Live from Central Texas, this is the Plutopia Happy Hour. Our guest tonight is His Lordship, Patrick Lickney.
Come
The
on.
Not Ready for Cable News players are here. Our foreign correspondent, Maggie Duvall in Taos. I'm Scoop Sweeney, and over my head as usual, and that guy over there is John Lebukowski. Sir John.
AKA Max Headroom.
I know tonight's the Mac
Well, I'm minimal headroom right now.
it's fitting.
I'm glitchy.
Oh my God, aren't we all? For sure.
Oh wow! I just realized you could change your name to Patrick Glitchy.
Oh, you know what? You know what? You are. You know something. You are. You know what you are. You know what you are. You are absolutely and completely right. And that's that's
You're a master of glitch.
that. Well,
I didn't really know much about glitch until I met you. You remember you did a panel at South by Southwest about glitch. When, when you and I were doing that other panel too.
There we go. Okay. So
which I don't really remember. I can't remember what our panel was about. It was about art.
Cyborg guy.
Oh, that's right. The cyborg guy.
The cyborg guy. Gosh. Yeah. So what happened with that is that that was a little bit after 2010, but about 2010, there was just a whole bunch of artists that just went just nuts on glitch in Chicago and Amsterdam, and that's when that's before I went to Arabia.
So it was,
yeah. So we've been hanging out for a while.
We have been, yes.
So I mean that's the thing, and the interesting thing is that what was it? With some artists, with some local artists, I did a performance of the Declaration of Cyberspace Independence for JP. Streamed it to him, that sort of thing, about a couple weeks before he went from Kazakhstan. So that was interesting.
I was looking online to try to see if I could find anything from our sessions, but so we did sessions 2 years in a row. One of them was Cyborg Guy. What was the other one?
Let's see here. Can't remember. I see. The one thing is, I do realize
art, activism, and augmented reality. That's what it was.
That's right. And then the other year, I was out there.
Oh, Cyborg Gaze is what the other one was.
Yep. And then I remember that. And then there was a third year I was out there. with John Cates and a bunch of people, and we were doing some other kind of glitch-esque stuff, but that was like those like early days and that sort of thing. So yep, exactly. Art activism, not augmented reality, then cyborg gaze, and then actually the thing is the glitch thing is when I was out there with John Cates and not John Raffin, nuts, John out from Chicago. But we're rambling.
Ramble is our middle name.
Exactly.
Ramble
Yeah,
on.
my only involvement with augmented reality was back in Berkeley, and something about mushrooms, but I don't remember.
Oh, well, that. You know what? What's kind of funny is that we should have Brenda Worrell on for that one.
I bet you were a fun guy, Scoop.
Me? No, I was.
So you know what? I'll do the back
I
then.
was a young Republican. No, wait, that was somebody else.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
title of our session tonight is Back to the Metaverse.
Yes.
And I'm kind of wondering about that because South by Southwest, the one session that I caught a glimpse of, I didn't really watch the session, but for a minute or two. But it was one of their metaverse sessions, and the guy on there was basically, it was like the metaverse was going to be like a big 3-dimensional catalog for people to just go through and buy things, basically. And
Yeah,
it seems to,
I thought that was Amazon.
and it made me think about, back in 98 or so, or 97, sometime back then, I was working for Whole Foods Market, helping them get into e-commerce, right?
Right.
And when we were planning our first big e-commerce site, we got some people to come in from the field to kind of brainstorm what the possibilities were. And everybody seemed to want us to do a VR kind of visual representation of a store where people could walk through and take things off the shelf.
Yeah, like VRML, right?
Yeah. And I said, that's kind of impractical, and back then it was, but you could do that now. But is that what people are going to want to do? Put on a headset, go into a virtual store, walk through the store and pick things off the shelf?
Well, you know what? So I mean, let's just set up a few points. In other words, so say for example, I mean, back in the late 80s, early 90s, you got Jaron running around with the VPL headset and things like that, and getting everybody excited. Then I'd say probably about 90, 92, 93, you've got the Mondo 2000 fringeware era. And I mean, I'm just saying during that era, you've got all these shows, like you've got things like VR5 and Wild Palms and Johnny Mnemonic and all that sort of thing that's starting to talk about, there's this thing called the internet, and it's coming. It's like, and so was it going to be looking like? And everybody thought, the speculation was all about, okay, we're going to have, it's all going to be this 3D internet, VR thing. But okay, then let's jump forward a little bit. We're talking about 1998, and then you had things like Superscape and VRML and Active Worlds and things like that. And there was, once again, let's see if we can bring commerce into this 3D world again. And then about in 2006, there was this huge push, with Second Life. And the one thing I'll just wind up saying is one of the big problems with that is that Second Life was a single provider that had massive scaling issues and that sort of thing for the amount of growth that it took on and that sort of thing. And the thing is, HTTP is a protocol. It's not a service provider. And, so I mean, and Second Life, currently still has a 30,000 at any time, rotating, people online, which is really actually kind of amazing. Right. But now we have this proliferation of spaces, like VR chat, alt space VR. The Second Life is still around, and Meta Horizons and all that sort of thing. And then, now we have, the what I'm starting to say, monkey space, and that there's this idea that once again, we want to try to create this neoliberal, socket protocol layer, in the internet between us, the meat body and the objective world, and put this ubiquitous kind of this either basically sort of like advertising transport layer with your commerce and all that sort of thing. And one or two things, it seems to me, and I don't know whether it was Bruce who mentioned that the hangout thing at South by was a little kind of boring, but it seems like I see one of two things. It seems like which often sometimes tends to be this way. You wind up with a with a bunch of crypto bros in a virtual space on a giant yacht,
Right.
that's with some pretty bad lounge, with some pretty bad house music, which is not too far off from real life. And then and they're just saying, it's like, aren't we cool? Or it's turning into another 3D catalog, which people have been trying to do again and again and again and again. And the thing is that, to me, there seems to be this endless return to this trope that comes from it comes from William Gibson, and comes from especially Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash, the guy who coined the metaverse. And the thing is that, okay, let's see here. This is sort of like the Edith Richmond moment, from with Mike Myers. It's like, so what the hell? Discuss, Well,
the whole thing that I tend to bring up and piss people off is, you realize this is not going to become popular until the advent of augmented reality porn. Every other thing on the internet that became successful, the web, email, news groups, when porn became available, all of a sudden it was, hello, everybody.
Oh, I'm sure that'll do it. Well, I let me just toss in that Neil Stephenson at South by Southwest this year was here to plug his latest book, which is mostly what he talked about. But in the Q&A, somebody asked him about the metaverse and the fact that, they're kind of taking his concept and running with it, apparently. And he sort of shrugged his shoulders and said, I think they're just trying to make a bunch of money,
Oh, I agree.
And I think that somebody told me we live in a capitalist society and that people want to make money. So I understand, I guess, that's the rub. But on the other hand, it's like, is it going to be any fun? Is there going to be any real jollies? And how much time do you want to spend with a headset on? Probably getting a little dizzy.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I keep thinking about how 3D movies there's a resurgence of 3D and everybody's kind of excited with the immersiveness of it. But then after a couple of years, people don't want to wear the glasses anymore, and they won't go. They'll look for the next shiny object, 4K or 8K or whatever. And I can't imagine, if people are so resistant to wearing glasses in a theater to watch a 3D movie, I can't imagine that they're going to be buying like VR headsets and strapping them on for hours at a time, or even long enough to go shopping.
You know what it reminds me of is the horrifying experience I had about 12 years ago. I was taking a walk around Town Lake in the morning in Austin, and I saw this couple that were, jogging with a baby stroller, and they had, it was a beautiful spring day. The birds are singing and everything. And they're staring straight ahead. They've got their, earbuds in. They're not communicating with each other. And their baby is like looking at the iPad with earbuds in. It's like everybody's in this, they're out in the world, but they're completely disconnected from it.
Well, that's the brave new world for sure.
Yeah, and it just really depressed me. I was like,
well, I remember Did anyone
long-
watch the
Yeah.
Rolling Stones 3D concert that they did on TV, which was just, I mean, their performance was great, but it was just horrifying. And I got a headache like crazy because you had to have your special 3D glasses to watch it. And when I saw that, it's like, no, this is not going anywhere.
Oh, you know what? You mean like Count Floyd on SCTV? Is like, oh, kid, you must have your special.
I love
3D
Count Floyd.
glasses." You know, it's only $29.95. You know, it's like, and I mean, yeah. So you know, I think yeah, in many ways, I love the ad that you kind of see on Facebook right now for the Oculus. You know, for the Meta, you know, Meta Quest 2, you know, saying that it's like, you know, let's see here. Go play ping pong with your friends online. You know, go and hang out with your friends online like you can at the coffee shop, or go play ping pong with your colleague who lives like 2 doors down because you know you can't get out and go down to the Y or something like that. But I do understand, you know, I never would have gotten out of North Canton, Ohio, former home of Hoover vacuum cleaners, if it hadn't been for the internet, you know. And I mean, if it hadn't been for cyberspace, and I admit this, you know, I mean, that's one thing. But on the other hand, you know, there's a certain toxicity to some of these things, but the thing that I keep wondering about is that I still think about that scene from Johnny Mnemonic, that wonderful train crash from Robert Longo, talking about room service, that just, you know, is that 3D internet scene for, you know, that he's going to the Beijing hotel. And the thing is that for some odd reason, some form of that, one way or the other, seems to be sticking with us. And I do have another data point that I want to go to, but I don't want to, you know, I don't want to hang up the conversation any longer on that. But the one thing is that I do have, I think what I think it's gonna be, what I think it's more likely to be. But, you know, I think it's really super interesting that there seems to be this idea that somehow, you know, that online reality somehow needs to be in 3D, but in somehow, you know, this some sort of with this set of affordances and that sort of thing that allow us to get through cyberspace. But to me, it kind of tells me that there's a desire to be, by somebody, to be embodied in digital space and sell it.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't think it's going to catch on. I can't imagine that it is. At least as full 3D VR, like with goggles and so forth. Maybe, you know, something like Second Life, where you actually have a two-dimensional, you know, virtual reality on your screen. But even that, for one thing, it takes a lot of processing power to have really sophisticated graphics. So everything is going to be a little, you know, it's either going to be relatively low resolution kind of, or if they do really good high res stuff, the energy cost is going to be huge. It's going to be worse than Bitcoin.
And it makes a lot of assumptions of privilege too.
Well, I think the future is going to be with 3D printing John Lebkowski bobblehead dolls just by going online.
That would be awesome. I'll take 2.
Hey, we're giving them away. Come on down. We'll be the mypillow.com of bobblehead dolls.
That'd be fantastic.
Maggie, what do you think about the metaverse?
Well, I was thinking the only thing that sounds, I'm sort of over a lot of it now. You know, I'm sort of But I've seen a lot of my friends from back in the day that have gone back like, well, I'm going to be a farmer on the land. Like, I don't want any more of the, but I was thinking about how cool it would have been to have something like the metaverse when I was homeschooling, unschooling my daughter. It would have been really cool for her to strap on the equipment and go work with kids from all around the world, to work on things together, or to learn together, to problem solve together. That could be really, that's interesting to me. That something that's that kind of application of, anything to facilitate understanding or to learn together, but yeah, just the whole idea of, I find it annoying that I have to wear reading glasses. So just having more equipment or things strapped to me or whatever just doesn't appeal. But that's I'm old and cranky, so that's me.
I mean, being that, oh my God, all of a sudden I realized is that for the first 15 years of my life as a electronic artist and cyberhead, is the fact that I wasn't an academic, and now for 15 years I have been an academic. And I'm just, on one hand, I like to say, oh, I'm not an academic. No, wait a second, dude. Remember, you are. I said, oh crap. Oh, anyway, what happens is what I remember, I think like there's that, spatial IO, which I think is sort of like almost like Horizon, but cooler. But the thing is it's a really nice space for doing like design charrettes and things like that. And you put things up, and you can, and it's not bad. I mean, it's not bad. And you can go from your laptop, you can go from your headset, and you can do this mixed mode experience. And it's not bad. But I think really kind of like there's this video called Hyper Reality by Keiichi Matsuda, which is really fantastic. Like it's like this gig worker in Medellin, Colombia, who's wearing this set of like AR glasses, but she's like trying to get coins and that sort of thing by constantly playing games and doing gigs and all that sort of thing. Somebody actually hacks her and grabs all her stuff, and she becomes a Catholic. But that's which is, anyway,
she was a Catholic.
Well, what happens is that she, there's a hacker that comes up to her, and basically steals all her digital assets that she has stored on the chain and everything, and then she has nothing. And so, then she turns, and all of a sudden there's a cyber chapel, across the street, and she goes and she becomes a Catholic, and that's exactly it. Yep.
Wow.
And so the thing is that this is what I'm talking about, is this informatic capitalist layer between, the person and the world. And this is, I actually see this as maybe possible.
This is pretty good. This really makes me think about that thing I saw at South by Southwest. It's like all marketing all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Reset your identity. I better, I'm still in fair use, but let's stop.
Wasn't it Facebook that had an internal document that got leaked that basically talked about what, it's one of its number one impediments to its business model was sleep.
Yep.
Wow.
So
I've still got the video on over here. I'm kind of loving it. I'm getting distracted by it. That's probably terrible.
John's distracted by shiny objects.
Put it up, John. But it's really, really good.
It is good.
There's also, what is it? I think this what is this YouTuber named Mooncat, who just also really just lays out an amazing discussion on Web 3.0 as a neoliberal dystopia, and in great detail, but of course done in a YouTube way, which is a little haram for my sensibilities.
Yeah, we
But,
only do utopia here. We don't do dystopia.
exactly, totally. But in other words, basically, it's just sort of like saying, okay, yeah, I mean, okay, 3D VR online spaces. I mean, okay, so I'm an artist, right? Artist and writer, and so there are some fantastic, there's some fantastic spaces, and it's like, I mean, actually Sansar was doing a lot of stuff. I'm not sure how successful they are right now, but Second Life still doing some amazing stuff. There's artists like Bryn O out there who are doing these really surreal spaces and that sort of thing. So I guess what the thing is that in kind of like at this point in the conversation, I kind of want to like bring up the menu. It's like saying, is it interesting to consider why this thing keeps being hauled out and so far it keeps failing? And is this just going to keep happening again? Or are we maybe more interested in seeing what may be more, more interesting things to do with, this kit R, What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I looked at Sansar. I flashed that on here a minute ago. And I looked at the hyper reality video, and it was a little bit compelling, just kind of like a lot of movement, a lot of bright color, kind of, stimulating and exciting and so forth. I can see going there occasionally. I can't really see going there a lot. I mean, it's sort of like some experiences are just a bit much, and again, the idea of like being wrapped in a headset in a virtual reality space. So at South by Southwest this year, there was a Banksy exhibit, a really good one. It was loaded with art. And one of the pieces of the Banksy exhibit was a VR experience where you put on the VR headset and it kind of walked you through a cityscape where there was Banksy art all over the place. And it was great. It was pretty cool. It was pretty exciting. It was definitely a great way to experience Banksy's art. You really had the feeling that he was pretty involved in conceiving the structure of the experience. You could feel his wit in it, But on the other hand, occasionally I would get a little dizzy, which I am usually anyway. No, but dizzier, I could say.
Right.
And it was something where it was a great experience for 15 minutes, but I couldn't imagine doing it for an hour, Yeah. So it just doesn't feel like it's very sustainable. But on the other hand, I think about like my grandson, for instance, here, he's about 30 years old. And a huge part of his social life is virtual in gaming environments.
And this is what they're talking about.
But they're flat. They're not VR. So I find myself wondering if he could get a headset and go into a totally virtual reality and do the gaming stuff that he does, I wonder how long he could sustain that I wonder how long anybody could sustain that before they would kind of like be overstimulated or, their eyes would start falling out of their sockets, that kind of thing.
I think too, we've talked about the capitalism and everything's marketing and all that. I miss I miss the days, but I do think about how it felt when, I was in the Bay Area in the late 80s, early 90s, and it was just everything was hitting, and it was just I couldn't get enough of it. I was working with these research scientists and these guys that did software for chip design. So they were telling me what was coming down the pike computing wise and all that. And it was like, this is so new. This is so different. And I've mentioned this on the show before where at Burning Man in 95, standing on the playa, and nothing was really, because it was so small, right? Just feeling this wave coming of all this really cool stuff. And of course, everything I was reading from Howard Rheingold and, Community and like what we've talked about, it was so thrilling, like, wow. And then the marketers came. And that's how I felt with South by Southwest. It was so exciting. And then the marketers came. And so I can't get myself amped up because I'm like, everything seems to have, it has to be about the money, like, or what are they going to sneak in where they're selling you on something, or it just gets me down. And I wish that I could recapture that feeling of possibility and excitement, with this whole new metaverse thing.
Well, it's like, this is a capitalist problem. It's that it becomes so much about money and property that sort of like squeezes everything out.
Right.
And that's all that becomes the whole focus for really too many people. And then, you think about kind of like Thoreau at Walden Pond or Wendell Berry, kind of out in the woods writing his stuff. And it's like you're getting so far away from nature, and you're getting so far away from the natural environment and from the simplicity. It's like you're throwing yourself into increasing complexity, increasing like excitement and FOMO. And I mean, this is what's making us crazy. But on the other hand, people do pretty well in the capitalist society. I mean, we all have like indoor plumbing, and we have electricity, and we're kind of comfortable in our existences. Yeah. I mean, we also have like fascists and that sort of thing that seem to be somehow connected to this this mode of existence that the human race has chosen for itself. But it really seems like, I mean, how do we think this stuff? How do we undo some of the damage that we're causing? Scoop and I were talking to Jemay Cascio today, who was talking quite a bit about, he said, well, he's hopeful. He's in despair, but he's hopeful. He's in hopeful despair, I guess it is. But it's that, and he's a futurist. He does strategic foresight. And those guys are constantly looking at where this is all going, and it doesn't look good. And it looks worse and worse as we go along, especially if you consider climate change. So are we going to hide inside of our virtual realities while the earth melts down? That's kind of the concern I have, that it's sort of like sticking your head in the sand, crawling into the virtual space while the world explodes or implodes or, turns into a comet, whatever it is that's going to happen to this planet as it becomes increasingly hot and bothered.
I think that's probably the technocratic kind of approach. I mean, Ready Player One was all about, and I also think it's really kind of interesting that Ready Player One and the Oasis, is a metaphor for CompuServe, because it was in Columbus, Ohio, and the thing is just the idea is saying, well, guess what? The world came to suck so bad that everybody's, just off in the metaverse, and and I think that's the one thing that I think about is I think about Bruce's Schismatrix trilogy, which is one of my favorite sets of stories. And I think about the future of humanity turning into the mechanists and the shapers, and that sort of thing. And then, so the thing is that I think that there are these lines of thought that maybe certain technocrats, kind of like the Zuckerbergs and that sort of thing, said maybe we can give people this virtual shell game and just distract people while we're extracting capital out of them long enough till the to the point where they're just not seeing how bad the world is getting, while we get enough money, and then oh hell, maybe we'll just figure something out. I don't know, and that
I mean, then what happens?
And
Right.
then
I saw a good analog for the whole modern dilemma we find ourselves in. And of all places, that great intellectual source, the Rick and Morty cartoon series, and they go to a planet that is about to be sucked into a black hole. So the entire planet is just descended into, vile hedonism and, getting that last whatever in before they're sucked into the black hole. But somebody eliminates the black hole, and all of a sudden they have to live with all the really vile things they've been doing. And I see that as a possible future for us. We're going to look for, Armageddon, and someone was going to fix it. It's like, oh, damn, now what?
Right.
Oh my God.
I think there is, something I've noticed for quite some time, that I've had this discussion with people, and it's interesting to me how many people don't see that it's a problem, or they're like, what's the big deal? And what I'm talking about is, for years I haven't had a television, and I didn't go out much, and then I would go to any restaurant, and as many are, there's like banks and banks of televisions like on constantly, and I find it like it gets me really agitated, because it's just this onslaught that everyone else is not noticing. It's kind of like, well, what's the big deal, right?
Mhm.
And I'm like, this is really interesting that you're not seeing how much, you're not even able to really have a conversation with your family, the person you're having a meal with, because they're looking at the television every second, right? So I've noticed that, and now that I'm out here up in Taos, I'm where the skies are dark, it's really quiet, I don't hear anything. Rush hour lasts like 5 minutes. and then I fly into Austin, and it feels that same way now. Like it's just this onslaught of energy and people like rushing everywhere. And I'm, and I was in it. I used to live there. And so it's interesting to me, and I was just I was late getting on here tonight. Well, not really late, but our friend Chad Rittenberry, who we've worked with on different shows that we've produced, he's been working on the whole Gigafactory big opening party, Elon Musk's new Gigafactory. And he was showing all this footage, and people are wandering around, and I'm sure friends of mine who are like, Elon Musk is evil, I hate him, but they're all like, can I get in? Can I get into the party?
That's happening at this very moment.
Right.
It's in full flower right now, just like 20 miles from my front door.
Right.
Let's go.
It made me laugh.
Let's not. Joe Rogan's going to be there. Oh, good. Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I just think I think there's something to that maybe. And, and I think that COVID got people in the space for a minute where it was kind of everything stopped. And some people, it made everybody, some people go crazy, and other people are like, oh, wow, why have I been on this treadmill? I want to get off the other great resignation.
Now this gets really interesting, because I wasn't here for the first year of that, and I wasn't here at all for the time of 45 and all that sort of thing. So I mean, I was watching that from 5,000 miles away and just going like, holy crap, you know,
Right.
and so, but we were in lockdown in Abu Dhabi, for the first year and that sort of thing, and it was pretty unreal. But the one thing I thought was really interesting is that socially speaking, is the Islamic world is much more collective, than at least America, which is very individualistic. And a lot of my I'd say people friends from the Middle East were really kind of getting on a hell of a lot better because of the fact that they were at least always in touch with each other, through Zoom or just something, in other words, it's like by default, Middle Easterners don't silo so much.
That's interesting.
That
Yeah.
is interesting.
And
Yeah.
it didn't hurt them so much, and
Right.
I get here and I land in, by the way, I landed in Minnesota on January 14th without any of my stuff. So my stuff comes in May because I didn't realize that there was such thing as a supply chain breakdown, and and all these things. And I get online on Zoomtopia, and my students are looking at me like, Professor, we're so freaked out, and I just
About
said,
what?
everything,
Right.
it's just like, and that was so that was unexpected. But then also on the other hand is that I just kind of wonder, what people are gonna yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of this in Second Life, but eventually if you get to know somebody decently in Second Life, you get curious about who they are in, in the flesh, that sort of thing. You get to be friends and things like that, just kind of say, okay, this is my doll. And it's like, who are you really? And there's only a few people who really kind of stay that way. But I just kind of wonder what would happen if we wind up in this kind of situation where, we're really used to being, legless torsos waving our arms
Right.
around, and by the way, the one thing is that I do want to kind of get in is that I think if this thing does happen, I do think that something a lot like that hyper reality sort of thing might happen with XR glasses, with light field projectors, in your lenses and that sort of thing, and in which you've got these overlays.
Right.
And and I mean, I think that's maybe entirely doable, but I think that Matsuda really kind of exaggerates the point, for a good reason.
For effect.
Oh, that's a good one, John.
Yeah.
I like that background.
I'm very fond of that picture.
Yeah, I'm
in the ruins.
Well, it's I the one thing that I always say is that atoms always trump bits in the end.
It's true.
But this way, I mean, let's put it this way: is that the internet, what is it? A lot of the online. See, this is another thing that goes on here is like sustainability. In other words, we know that by and large, unless you just keep forking and forking and forking, the blockchain doesn't scale. In order you just wind up just burning just crap loads of
Indeed.
of fuel,
Right.
And so what happens is, okay, fine, we wind up in some sort of fork that with a high energy efficiency and all that sort of thing. But on the other hand, we wind up with the eternal question of bit rot, and I wonder what the shape of bit rot would be in the metaverse.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Bit rot is a real thing in my life because I backed up a lot of data and video and audio to CDRs, and I went back and tried to play them, and they were not there.
They degrade.
It was an empty, vast wasteland of
Oh
nothing.
no.
And it's like, oh no. And fortunately, it wasn't everything, but I've run across a lot of that. And it's basically, shoddy manufacturing on the CDR or shoddy backup on my part.
Well, I don't think necessarily either one. I think that those things just have a shelf life or a lifespan,
Yeah.
They inherently degrade because of the way the technology is.
Which
It's
is
sort of like a flat screen TV said. I've been thinking about this a lot because I just replaced mine because those things have a limited lifespan and they get worse and worse over time. So they look really great for a few years, and then suddenly they start to get a little worse, a little worse, a little worse, until finally you have a picture that's like kind of mottled gray,
Wow.
and it's that way with a lot of digital stuff. There are things that degrade. There are forms of media that degrade, and they just aren't going to last. And it's always a challenge. Like if you are trying to preserve digital files, there's a backup challenge, because if let's say you've got everything on your computer backed up to an external hard drive, eventually that external hard drive is going to fail. Yeah. So what happens when that thing fails? What you got to do, you got to have redundancy.
You want to see my backup? Right over there, analog.
I see.
Vinyl records,
Right.
tape. And it's like, I realized early on that a lot of those recordings that you may have loved back in the 60s or 70s or 80s, you can't get them anymore unless you went out and bought an analog copy, or you were really good at your backup of the digital versions. So I still love my analog stuff.
But interestingly, streaming services are starting to have more and more of old stuff that, including stuff that's out of print. And if you can't find it on like Apple Music or Spotify, you're liable to be able to find it on YouTube. YouTube is loaded with out of print stuff that people have digitized.
Yeah, that's the big deal. And a lot of it is they've digitized their analog copies, because I've seen a lot of, I've gotten a lot of, fine music that what someone, recorded off of their vinyl record. Yeah, it may be, a little clicky and poppy, but you at least have the item.
Well, we're a little clicky and poppy, and we're okay.
Yeah, my knees are certainly doing that.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey, did you hear about the Star Trek Deep Space Nine demastered special edition that they're gonna send out?
I haven't figured out why they want to demaster it. It seems like they would go in the other direction.
No, but they want they're demastering it so it gives you the authentic VHS experience, with the little zips and that sort of thing. And I'm just going, that is the most bizarre damn thing that I have ever seen in my life.
Well, if there can be glitch art, that kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah. But, its ideas like this is sort of like one of the weirdest sort of like UX, sort of ideas that I've ever seen in mass media production. I just sort of like, we want something that gives a little blips and glitches and that sort of thing out of the VHS, and maybe have the floating DVD thing, and
right.
Well, I have to confess that I actually have VHS players and crates of VHS tapes that I will occasionally pull out just because, I just love the experience of something old. Old tech is it's different. And it's not nearly as cool and high resolution as what we have now, but it's an interesting experience to kind of immerse yourself in old tech.
You make me think of Wally.
I'm sharing this page for the Dead Media Project. Bruce Sterling
I got a couple pieces
did the Dead Media Project, and this page for it was created by Tom Jennings 100 years ago. As you can see, it's a very up-to-date HTML page. but there was an email list. Bruce
Yep.
did this with Viridian Design too, where I was the one who set up the website for that.
Yeah.
He would publish a manifesto. So this is the Dead Media Manifesto, and there is.
I got a couple of.
Let me see the list. Oh, the list doesn't. The link to the list doesn't work. Let's see. Here we go. Dead Media Working Notes. I don't know if there's.
The one thing I think is interesting is that there was a cultural fork with that. In other words, it's like Bruce was looking for, the coffee table book and that sort of thing, which didn't happen. But Eric Hutamo at UCLA and UC Parika and that sort of thing kind of started the media archaeology discipline, which actually, I mean, as far as I wrote, and then Lori Emerson has the media archaeology lab up at Boulder. And I mean, as far as like the I love both, but I think if you're talking about service to culture and really having a hardcore kind of academic sort of thing, I kind of support this idea of media archaeology that that sprung up, and I think it's sprung up out of the Dead Media Project and that sort of thing, and that was a heck of a lot of fun.
The Internet Archive is a great resource for a lot of media that you wouldn't find anywhere else. I was just amazed at the collections that are there, and I've spent many hours just going through and listening and viewing some of this stuff.
Maggie put together a cyberpunk sort of event in 2014 for EFF Austin that was just great. And one of the features of that was a computer museum, basically, within the event.
Everybody loved that.
Which Stephen Torrance put together, as I recall.
Yeah.
And that was pretty phenomenal.
If you want to see a computer museum, the Computer Museum in Boston, if you get there, I spent hours and hours there, and there's some interesting stuff there, including the tombstone for the COBOL programming language, which was interesting.
Wow.
I think the coolest part of that event that John's sharing the pictures of is seeing these young tech people just glued to those computers, just absolutely fascinated and pulled in, and that was a beautiful sight to see.
Oh my God, people! I was, I was there. That was great.
Yeah, we had a good time with that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was one of the years you were here. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And you know what? I think that was that panel with
the cyberpunk panel.
And the one thing I always remember is that when Bruce just kind of had this wail of saying, this isn't the dystopia that I wrote about.
We're in a different dystopia.
I was like, this is worse than I ever thought it was gonna be. This is horrible. Just like I don't know. Maybe in some of my stuff, maybe there was a little hope or something. I'm trying to channel a little Bruce, but
this year at South by Southwest, he was, I don't know. It was like he was very mellow. His talk was very mellow, even though he was kind of talking about the fact that we're in deep shit right now. Actually, he talked a lot about Grimes, and I can't remember the name of the other person, but it's like at this point things are so crazy, so chaotic, so out of control that you sort of just throw up your hands and say, well, I'm just going to try to enjoy what I can.
I guess what it is like there's like if I don't know, you're familiar with the Critical Art Ensemble. There's was it Politics and Aesthetics, and Steve, in the first chapter, just kind of, and then this also kind of echoes over a hyper normalization. Adam Curtis, is saying that things have gotten so complex, to the point where we can't get our heads around it anymore. And, it's just, we just can't deal with the indeterminacy of the vastness of the system. And, oh, by the way, one thing I was gonna say to Scoop was that saying that, we talk about, like, I kind of say that there's like the trinity of digital technology. There's the media, there's the hardware, and then there's like the software. And then so the thing is, like, okay, how many QuickTime VR, QuickTime 7 VRs are you looking at, or right? It's like the protocol goes dead, and it's like, and then so it's like Flash is gone, now what?
Yeah, Flash is dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was half the web,
Right.
So, so what happens when let's see here. What happens when Board Monkey markup language goes dead?
Yeah, I found a whole disk of real audio files that are totally useless. I mean, it makes a great coffee coaster or something.
Right.
Yeah,
I forgot about real audio.
Yeah, you remember the tiny little window?
Yep.
Tiny little video.
Well, it was funny. I actually did a whole I did a whole cyber documentary on urban sprawl for the Smithsonian Museum of American Art in like 2003, and I had like 190 minutes worth of video and panoramas and everything, and it was all QuickTime 7 and real video.
Wow.
So it's kind of gone.
What's really funny is there's a senator, Maria Cantwell. You all familiar with Maria Cantwell?
Mm-hmm.
She's the senator from Washington, a senator from Washington. And I remembered her when she was running for office. I thought, oh, that name's familiar. Oh, yeah, she used to be like VP of marketing for Real Networks. And every time you got an email about real audio, it came from Maria Cantwell. That's a bit of trivia.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? Actually, kind of in this sort of thing is like, in my Second Life performance group, which is kind of, I'd say, sleeping now more than gone, but we haven't done anything more than about 3. We did about 50 performances and that sort of thing. And so what happens is, but one of the people will actually probably be really good for this cast is Scott Kildall. And if you recognize that name, Gary's son, who wrote CPM. And he's and actually super nice guy, super interesting. But the thing is, I mean, he's got some stories.
Can you connect us with Scott Kildall?
Yeah, sure.
Maybe you could both come on here. And
yeah.
I know people who have made really good money running antique stores. Now, maybe we need to put together like a virtual antique store where we can go in and buy a box of real audio or VHS.
Actually, the one thing right now he's doing sonification from biometric data, from environmental spaces right now with another good friend of mine, Michael Ang, Michael Ang, who's at I got to know at NYU Abu Dhabi while I was out there and that sort of thing. So this is, you know what, maybe that's the future. It's like Michael and I were, I wasn't able to get these because like geophones. In other words, like you actually listen. We're kind of like now making this total complete loop away from like this idea from the metaverse. But maybe the idea is that maybe the thing that might be really interesting is just really to listen to the real earth. In other words, it's like Michael was using these geophones, and then the idea of the singing dunes and that sort of thing, like down in Liwa and all that, is that as the dunes shift and that sort of thing, they make sounds and they sing. And he's been recording those, and the sounds on that are really interesting. And I was always interested in seeing whether I could take geophones and put them out into the out onto the banks of the Mississippi and try to hear the sound of hear the actual sound of the river.
Oh, wow.
So maybe you could curate a set of Plutopia Live programs with various artists that you know.
Might be
Come in
interesting.
here and they could join us. You could join us with them, and we could all have a jamboree.
That's a great idea.
A great
Yeah,
idea.
Yeah,
Well,
you know.
actually, I want to warn you, we're down to the wire. We're almost out of time.
Okay.
We have 1 minute left.
All right.
But
So-
say something. Say what you're going to say.
Okay, no, I'm just saying there's a bunch of people out there. It's like one person who's really good, a guy in Illinois, Ben Grosser, who did that piece, Orders of Magnitude. It's just basically all the pieces of video of Zuck going more, 7 million, 5,000, 8 billion, 8 billion, more, and he also did that thing called the Go Rando. When you click on like it'd scramble things because angry is weighted 5 times as much as like in the Facebook algorithm, and that kind of then feeds into what would also happen with weighting on things for the metaverse. In other words, would the metaverse be weighted as an angry universe?
I'm excited. A cyber art series.
Right. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, here we are. We're out of time.
And there we go.
Thank you, Patrick. This has been such a great session.
Fantastic. Okay. You know what? I always love hanging out with my cyberhead pals.
Yeah. Well, this is great. And I think a cyber art series would be great for this show. Let's do it.
Yeah. What the thing is, let's talk about, kind of like, maybe what a scope, what sort of scope and, how many in the series you'd want to do and all that sort of thing. And just, and then I could set that up.
Okay. I will follow up with you. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us. Okay.
Hey, my
thanks,
pleasure.
everybody.
Okay. See you soon.
Bye.